Welcome, everyone. We're going to wait just a second. We have a lot of people, I always say teleporting in from the waiting room. So we'll get started here in just a second. Make sure you have something to take notes on. And then Angel, did you want to kick us off? Or are you ready for me to go ahead and get started?
Okay, I will kick everyone off. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, 3 Habits That Will Kill Your Lead Gen Career with your MAPS coach, Anna Krueger. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available within 24 hours on the MAPS Group YouTube channel. You may access the YouTube channel from your Zoom confirmation email, and we will also share the link in the chat momentarily. Currently, everyone is on mute. We do value group participation, so we ask that if you have any questions for your coach, please type them into the chat box located in the taskbar at the bottom of your screen. Your questions will be addressed by your coach throughout your webinar. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That's all for me. Anna, take it away.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. Are y'all staying warm out there? I see Alan in a puffer jacket, and I think I need one of those. I'm in South Carolina, and it's supposed to be 14 degrees in a few days. It's ridiculous. So hope y'all are staying warm out there. And today we're going to chat about 3 habits that will kill your lead generation career. I'm curious if you have a guess, put it in the chat box. What have you found that kind of trips up your lead gen career? It may or may not be the thing we're talking about today, but I think it would still be helpful for us all to look at what are things that can get in our way. So go ahead and put that in the chat box. And then also, I would love to know where you're located. We'll see your name because you're logged in. So tell us where you're located and also what your position is. So maybe you're a team leader, maybe you are an ISA or an agent. I would love to see that in the chat box as well. Yeah, it looks like a lot of you are saying family, time blocking, lack of follow-up. Yeah, those are certainly things that will get in the way for sure. So let's go ahead and jump in. I have 3 specific things, and there are going to be parts where I invite you to interact. And we'll do that today. Real quick, I forgot to introduce myself. I am Anna, and you see me logged in as MAPS, but my name is Anna Krueger. I am a MAPS coach, and I teach the class Mastering Inside Sales. It is launching February 2nd. So if you like the content today, check out that class on February 2nd. And at the end, I'll remind you where to find that. But the 3 things that'll kill your lead gen career. So let's start with the first one. The first one is mindset. Mindset. And in a moment, I want to hear from some of you. What have you done that helps your mindset? Where this came from, when I originally wrote the content of today's webinar, it was just after the pandemic hit in March of 2020. And what fascinated me is I was coaching very talented people, and almost every single one of them got in their head about the results. And they were hopping on coaching calls saying things like, I feel like I've lost my skill. Or I feel like maybe I'm not good at this anymore. And I'm curious, how many of you were in real estate in March of 2020? Would you kind of wave your hand at me? Okay, quite a few of you. Awesome. Did we not all have to talk to a lot more people to set an appointment in March and April of 2020? Absolutely. So I actually found that we had to 2.8 times our efforts. Most people were talking to about 48 people to set an appointment, where normal was 20. However, all these talented people were like, oh my gosh, am I good at my job anymore? Do I really know what I'm doing? And they absolutely started to just kind of tear themselves down with the way they were talking about it, instead of looking objectively at what was going on. So I do want to talk quickly with you about how do you help your mindset in that moment. Have y'all had a moment like that? I have. Guys, there are days where I'm like, am I even a good coach? Like, what, should I just go get a different job? Like, we all have days like this, no matter who you are, what position you have. It's called the imposter syndrome. Have you heard of that? It's where people doubt that they should be doing what they're doing, and maybe people will find out they're not really as good as they think. And we all battle that. At least most people battle that. And so I want to open it up to you real quick. And I would say in 30 seconds or less, so keep it brief, what have you done in the past that helped your mindset? And what I'd like all of you to do is make a list of what you're hearing, almost like a bank of things to go to when you're having a rough mindset day. You can go and look at this list and pick something that you think will help you. And then I have some things to suggest as well. But let's hear from those of you in the room. What are things that you have done on those days that you're questioning, am I good at this job? My mindset's kind of tanking. What have you done that's helped you in those moments?
I've tapped into my bigger why. That always guides me back, and then I rely on the teachings from two books I read: The Atomic Habits and The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Blank.
Yes, I'm glad you said the blank. Yes, absolutely. I think I saw you put that in the chat box as well. Yeah, and what from those books are you thinking about? Just if people haven't read them, just give us one thing from a book that you learned that helps you with your mindset in a moment like that.
Is the from Atomic Habits, it's the starting from the inside instead of the outside to change. So whenever I get stuck, I always ask myself, what would a millionaire real estate agent be doing right now? And that reconnects me back to what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I act as soon as I do that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I like how you said I act as soon as I do that. One question, what you just said made me think of this. I had a leader, Haro, my former leader when I was still on the team. I can't remember what it was. I want to say it was probably setting a higher number of appointments for the day. And I was all in my head like, I don't know if I can do that. And he said, Anna, if I promised you $1 million at 5 o'clock today, as long as you did the thing, and maybe it was setting 3 appointments, I don't remember. But if I promised you $1 million at 5 o'clock to accomplish that thing, how would you do it? And immediately I started thinking of solutions. And I knew he wasn't writing me $1 million check, but something about just entertaining that thought, because I thought, I know if $1 million was on the line, I would figure this out. How many of you, if $1 million was on the line, you would figure out how to find 1 to 2 qualified people to set an appointment with by the end of the day for $1 million? Yeah. That happened once when we originally launched the program back in 2015. I had about 300 people reach out to me with questions. So I took a break and I went to Barnes & Noble for coffee, as we all do when we're stressed. I was like, I got to get out of the office. I got to figure this out. And as I drove home, I thought, if someone was going to give me $1 million by 5 o'clock today to individually get to 300 people, how would I do it? And I immediately thought I'd do a webinar. I'd offer a webinar and just invite everybody to it. And that's what I did. So I would encourage you, if you feel like you're behind or you're not quite sure how to accomplish something, just imagine if someone were to give me $1 million by the end of the day to do it, how would I do it? And you will be amazed at how you start to figure things out. James said I would do that for 10,000. Yes. I also see I get around other positive-minded people from Miriam. Yes. Changing my mindset from lead generator to manager of lead gen. Yeah, absolutely. Who else? Let me have somebody unmute because I'm not the only teacher here. Let's hear from at least one more person. What do you do when your mindset is tanking to get it back in a positive spot?
I can go.
Anna. Oop.
Okay, we'll have both of you go. So let's start with David and then we'll have the lady go. Go ahead.
I'm David. I'm in New Orleans. And what I do on those days is that I go back to one of my affirmations I do every morning, which is that I'm so grateful for the way that the universe enables me to serve other people and help other people achieve their goals. And I just kind of leave it kind of open. But I also look back at my vision board because to get those things, I don't have a choice but to go back and do what I have to, the things in my business. And another one of my affirmations is that I love so much how other people trust me, my community trusts me, my family and my friends trust me, and fulfill my business and my life. And it just kind of like, you can't help but when you start doing that to get back into a positive mindset, when you have that positivity.
Well, and it's gratitude. I mean, gratitude is one of the highest forms of thinking and speaking. Yeah. And I like how Lori put, thank you, David. And I like how Lori put in the chat box, I jump in and help a new agent. Then I realize how much I actually know. Yeah, that's 100% true. Sometimes we just forget how much we know because it's just what we know. And I don't know who it was. I heard a female voice that started to speak, and whoever that was, go ahead and unmute and tell us, what do you do? 30 seconds or less. What do you do to help your mindset when you're struggling?
Hi, Anna. This is Michelle Geikema. So I have a file that I have of clients that have given me like testimonials and that kind of stuff of how I've helped them. And those kinds of things. And I just read that. I've had people that are just like terrified to buy a house and because of a bad experience. And then when they finally bought one, it's kind of like it healed their heart to go through the process again with me. So I just like reading those, and that gives me,
that's really good.
Yeah, more get up and go to do more good for people.
Yeah, well, it's evidence that you're making a difference. Yeah. And by the way, again, I hope y'all are making a list. Thank you, Michelle, for that. I have a similar thing. I have an email, and I would show it to you, but there's a ton of email in there, and I'll protect client info and not share my screen. But there's a email folder in my Gmail that says feel good emails. And if someone sends me an email saying that training helped me in this way, or here's the difference you've made, or whatever it is, any sort of compliment or encouragement, I'll file it in feel good emails. And when I'm having one of those days where I'm like, am I even good at my job? I mean, we all have those days. I'll go and look at that folder, and it will remind me of why I'm doing what I'm doing, but also that, yeah, here's evidence. Here's evidence that I do know what I'm doing, and that hasn't changed overnight. I still know what I'm doing. I got this. And so that is very helpful. A couple other things for you. I would encourage all of you to have a list of people that you can call that you know will be happy to hear from you. And ideally, this would be a past client. Maybe you have an expired lead that your team took on and you sold the house and they're just a huge fan. There was a lady I used to call like that, and I would tell her, I don't feel like calling today. Like, she knew that I was a lead generator, and I'd call her this expired lead, and I'd say, I don't feel like calling today. And you always encourage me, and I just thought I would call you. And she would literally give me a pep talk. She was a raving fan of our team because we sold her house quickly after it had expired with someone else. That always got me back into a positive mindset. Another thing I recommend is if you're, okay, you got to have some self-regulation here. But if you know that your work ethic is strong, and I kind of imagine for all of you it is, you're here on this webinar and no one's making you be here, right? So you probably are good work ethic type people. So sometimes if we feel we're behind, we won't take breaks. And people work through lunch. How many of you have had lunch at your desk and you're not taking breaks? Some of you are sheepishly smiling. You're like doing this as you raise your hand. Yeah, so same thing with me. And years ago, like 2009, something like that, I was really behind on my goal. And my leader said, you're not allowed to take your computer home tonight, and you have to take a 3-day weekend. And I was like, Kimbria, I can't, like, I'm behind. I can't do that. She goes, I'm making you do it. You're not allowed to work 3 days off. And do you know, as soon as I came back, I hit goal. And so I started noticing that trend with people I coach. If they're not taking lunch, if you're not taking breaks, if you're not taking a weekend off where you put the phone away, you actually are going to go backwards in your performance. We need breaks. It's a biological need. It's a mental, we need it mentally, emotionally. So I would encourage you to make sure you're taking breaks as well. Okay, so take breaks. Have somewhere that you file away compliments so you can read it on a rough day. The other thing that I would recommend is get into action. I don't know about you guys. Isn't it the craziest thing how, say you're working on your health and you do one day where you track in MyFitnessPal and you went to the gym, and that one day you feel like a rock star where yesterday you might have felt terrible, and like you haven't lost weight yet. You haven't really put on a lot of muscle yet. You did one day of the right activity and your whole mindset is different. Can anyone relate to this? Isn't that crazy how that works? And it's because you got into the right activities. So that would be the other thing I would recommend, is get into activity quickly on the things that you know you need to be doing. And you will feel better. You will feel better. One quick thing, and then we're going to move on to points 2 and 3. We're already halfway through. So I want to leave time for the second and third thing that will kill your lead gen career if you're not careful. But just a quick story, because I think a lot of you will relate to this. When I was a new agent, inside sales agent, I was lead generating with my leader, Haro. And we were in the same room making lead gen calls. And for whatever strange reason, we had a week where we barely set any appointments. I was used to setting 5 to 10 a week. And I want to say that week I set 2. It was like egregiously below average. And I honestly was kind of freaking out. He also had barely set any appointments, yet he was completely calm. And you know what the difference was? because I asked him, I'm like, why are you so calm? Like, why are you not all freaking out with me? And he said, Anna, I've done this long enough and I know the numbers. And I know that this many contacts, 20 contacts earns an appointment. And I have hit the contacts. Like, I've hit the contacts to set the appointments I need. So my guess is next week is going to be disproportionate. I'm probably going to set a lot of appointments in the time that I work next week. But the right activities always lead to the right results. So write that down. The right activities always lead to the right results. And sure enough, the following week, we had tons of appointments, much higher than normal. I cannot explain to you why it is that sometimes you have a week where you set a ton and the next week it's a little bit slower. But the thing that you all need to know, this will give you a lot better sleep at night. Look at your numbers and figure out how many contacts does it take for you to set an appointment on average. And if you haven't been tracking, start tracking today. In a week, you'll have a number to work with. But how many contacts does it take for you to set an appointment, and make sure you're hitting that number consistently? And if you're hitting that number consistently and you have an off week, you can sleep okay at night knowing it'll probably catch up next week. Does this make sense to everyone? Now, here's the one thing you have to watch for. If that goes on week after week after week after week, you might be in a market shift and the number needs to change. You might need a lot more contacts. Just like back in March of 2020, 20 contacts wasn't working anymore to set one. We needed 48 contacts to set an appointment back then. So the point is, watch for trends. But generally speaking, if you always have had 20 contacts to set an appointment and you have 1 week that it's off, see if the next week it makes up for it. And if so, you probably just had a weird week. Got it? Don't question your ability just because of 1 day or 1 week. All right. Okay, so enough on mindset. I do want to make sure we have enough for the other two. Mindset's the biggest one, so that's why we spent more time on that. Okay, the second thing that will kill your career if you're not careful is skill. Skill. And what I mean by that, and I will say I have to watch myself on this because I coach skill, is we get comfortable. Oh, I know this. Oh, I've done this long enough. Or maybe you feel like you're really killing it as an agent or an ISA. You just breathe and appointments fall on your face. Maybe you feel that way sometimes. And the temptation there is to get away from scripting. And when we get away from scripting, we get away from those little habits that actually make a big difference. So I just want to caution you, especially those of you that have done this for a while, I think you're actually more at risk than the new person. The new person, we know we need to practice. Right? But when we've done this for a while, we can get away from that habit of script practicing. Let me ask you all, what have you found to be the best method for script practice? Meaning, how do you do your script practice time? Because a very common question I get is, how do I script practice? How do I do it? How do I do it well? So I have ideas for you that I will share, but let me hear from at least one person. What do you do that makes your script practice go well?
Our team meets every day, well, 4 days a week, and we just do round robin on who's going to be the mock client, who's actually the agent, and then we all give feedback.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. So everybody gives feedback. So it sounds like maybe one person is the agent, one person is the client, and everyone watches and gives feedback. Yeah,
correct.
I think that's good. Yeah, thank you, Jordan. What I will say for those of you that just got a new script. So maybe you're new to the industry and everything's new, or maybe you've done this for a long time and you just picked up a new script or language pattern somewhere. The best methods to write this down, this will help you a ton, because a lot of people don't script effectively and it takes way longer to get your skill up to where it needs to be. So the first thing you want to do is just straight up memorize it. So if you just got a new script today, don't even bother practicing with someone else. Just straight up memorize it. How many of you have been in plays? You've done some acting. Yeah, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, right? You get that script and the first thing you do is just memorize it. You're not practicing the play with anyone. You're not in dress rehearsal. You're just trying to get those lines in your head. That's it. So that would be the first thing I recommend. One of the best agents I know, she sold 144 homes her first year in the business. It's crazy. So I asked her, like, how did you get so good at this? And she said she would write the scripts. So do you remember in school when the teacher would say, Anna, write out 100 times, I will not talk in class. You 100 times, I will not talk in class. I will not talk in class. She did that with her scripts. So she might write the opener, and maybe it was, you know, hey, Jordan, thanks for taking my call. You know, I'm so-and-so calling from here. What has you thinking about moving? She would write that out over and over and over, and that helped her memorize it. So first, you just want to get it straight up memorized. The next thing you want to do once you have it memorized is practice with someone and tell them, be the easiest client. You're not some client with 12 objections. We're not practicing funny things that would never happen on the phone. You're just an easy client because I got to just get through the script, right? I just got to get through it. Then once you have it down pretty good, you have it memorized, you're pretty good at navigating it when someone's like the ideal client, then you start adding in the objections and the more complex things. But what I find a lot of people do is they'll go straight into the complex things, and then we never actually get it down. It's pointless. And I know what we're doing. We're trying to make it humorous and entertaining, right? And guys, trust me, I love to have fun, but I also really like to make money. So I would rather have fun with the money I have made because I was serious in my script practice. Y'all got it? So let's be serious during script practice time. Memorize it, practice it with someone who will do it easy with you, then add in the complex stuff. And then a great way to check if you actually know the script, let's say that Jordan and I were on the same team. I might say, hey, Jordan, I think I have this script down. I want you to just call me one day, totally out of the blue, like after work, maybe like 6:30 at night or something. Just call me and just give me an objection. And you're going to catch me off guard. I won't have my script. And I want to see if I can do it without looking, just totally out of the blue. And that is one way to know that you really know a script, is to have someone call you out of the blue and test your knowledge. Got it? So number 1 is mindset. Number 2 is scripting. People will get away from scripting. And then the third thing that will kill your lead generation career is fast conversations. And I'm gonna explain what I mean by that. Because sometimes you want to have a fast conversation. You know, if you're calling and someone's like, don't call me anymore, and they maybe curse at you, just, that doesn't need to be a long conversation, right? Like, okay, moving on. But what I mean by this is a lot of times people will quickly like just skip altogether or barely ask any questions about a person's motivation. And guys, motivation is the most important thing for us to know about a person when it comes to their real estate goals. How many of you have taken the BOLD class and you hear things like logic makes people think, but emotion makes people act. Emotion, or the reason they want to move. I mean, guys, packing up your house in boxes, it's like torture, right? You got to pack up all your stuff in a box, then you got to put it on a moving truck, and then you got to get all your friends to come over and help you and give them free pizza, and then you got to unload it somewhere else. That is not easy to do. And so if we don't know why someone wants to do it, it's going to be very hard to keep them engaged. And what I find a lot of people do with lead generation is they're so quick of, I need to get my contacts, I gotta go, that they're barely asking about motivation, which means the client isn't that interested in moving forward. And then they just, okay, next person. And what I learned, so I want you to write this down, because I'm a very fast-paced person. If you know anything about DISC, I'm a 99D. If you know anything about DISC, if you don't know about DISC, it's totally fine. But basically what that means is I'm 99 out of 100 on fast-paced, hurry up, let's go. I'm really pleasant to be around. So I'm a high D. And so here's the thing. I finally had to learn, I will have faster results with slower conversations. And that helped that tension inside of me. So I will have a faster result with a slower conversation. And let me give you a couple guidelines to go by. Because what we don't want is 30-minute conversations. That's too slow. So let me give you a couple guidelines to go by. When you get on the phone with someone, I've timed this for years and years, and it's consistent. To truly uncover someone's motivation, it should take you 3 minutes. So write that down, 3 minutes. It sounds short, but when you're on a call, it can feel long. But what I want you to do is watch your call timer and don't talk about anything other than motivation until you've gotten to at least 3 minutes. And as you do this, you're going to learn, oh, I really used to think I was getting someone's motivation. And now that I'm giving it 3 minutes, I'm realizing I didn't do this very good before. It's got to be about 3 minutes. Okay. So 3 minutes to get motivation. And then it takes about 7 to 9 minutes to do the pre-qualification. And by pre-qual, I mean, who are the decision makers? What's your timeline? How much do you want to spend? I'm talking all the logical stuff, the stuff we're used to talking about. And then if you set an appointment, because that's going to take a minute, you got to pick a time and get all that nailed down. Total, you're looking at about 12 minutes total for this entire phone call. So another 1 to 2 minutes to set the time. So when I say have a longer conversation for a faster result, I don't mean have 30, 45 minutes. But what happens, guys, and please hear me when I say this, because my heart is for you. Like, I really want you to win and have the income you want from your job. What happens a lot of times is, well, oh, what makes you want to move? If we even ask it. And they'll say, I want to downsize. And then we're just on to the next question. And what we got to do instead is, oh, what makes you want to move? Okay, tell me more about what that would do for you. Okay, how would that impact your family? That is such a big thing. What makes you so willing to get that you're going to pack up your whole house and put it on a moving truck and move it across town? And we spend about 3 minutes there. And the thing is, it builds rapport. So this person's thinking, I've talked to 5 other realtors and none of them asked me this. This person cares. And so, but also it gives you leverage if they want to cancel an appointment on you, or if they don't call the lender like they're supposed to. Say Michelle is the client. I could say, hey, Michelle, I know you were going to talk to the lender. And the reason for that is you really, really want to buy a bigger house so your parents can live with you when they're older and you can also grow your family. That's way different than, did you call the lender? Right? And so I want you to remember, a longer conversation will lead to a faster result. And by longer, I still only mean 12 minutes total. 3 minutes on motivation, 7 to 9-ish on the middle stuff, all the logical stuff that you do anyway. And then maybe another 1 or 2 to set that appointment. Okay, so 3 things: mindset, skill, slow down your conversation, keep it in check. So if you enjoyed this today, I do want you to know we have a class for lead generation. It starts February 2nd. And I'll put in the chat box the link. It's masteringinsidesales.com. And a lot of people think, oh, is that only for people in inside sales? And it's really a lead generation, lead conversion class. So I would say about 50% of the class are agents. We have team leaders in there. I've even had a photographer in there, and she said her business increased because of the techniques that we talk about. So it's a 6-month program. You get 19 language patterns. We talk mindset. We talk, how do you leave a voicemail that actually gets a callback? What do you do if someone says, I'm busy, can you just call me later? There's a way to get around that. So we go over 19 language patterns. I give you 3 different trackers that you can use. And you are allowed to have 2 people per registration as long as they're within your team. Okay. So you can have 2 people per registration. It's $199 a month. And we start February 2nd. People always ask, when is it? It's going to be on Wednesday, and it is recorded. So if you miss, you can always watch the recording on your own time. Okay. All right, let me open it up to any questions. And you guys are welcome. I see y'all typing into the chat box. Thanks for having me here. I love what I do, and I wouldn't do it if I couldn't do it if I didn't have people on webinars. So thank you for being here today. I really, really what I do. I can't believe my job is to help people and talk on webinars. I think that's awesome. So thank you guys for being here today. Let me open it up real quick. What questions do you guys have, either about the upcoming class or the content we had today? I can hang on for about 3 minutes. And thank you guys for being here. Any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Sure.
So my question for you is, what do you think is the best way to get meaningful feedback? The most efficient way to get meaningful feedback to improve your skill as an ISA?
Well, I think the biggest thing there is to have someone within the team or a coach that can look from the outside in to give you feedback on what you're doing. And then honestly, and I promise I'm not saying this because I teach the class, I would say this even if someone else taught the class, it's educating yourself on what success looks like, what language patterns do work, what scripts do work. And then you can either record calls, check on your state on what's allowed to record calls, make sure you're doing that legally. But listening back to what you're saying compared against the scripts and dialogues you've been given. So part of it is self-listening and self-analyzing. Part of it is having a coach or a team member that can speak into that outside of yourself. Because we all have blind spots. Y'all can tell me, I'm curious, did I say a lot today? Because someone told me once, Anna, you say on your webinars a lot. That was my blind spot. I did not know that. I had to have someone from the outside tell me. So that's what I mean, Joseph, is we all do things that we don't know we do, and we need someone to tell us.
Anna, I've got a quick question.
Yes.
And first of all, I think you're awesome.
Thank you.
If I put my ISA through this class and I attend it myself as the second person or have someone else on my team attend it,
Yeah.
are we only going to walk away? Please don't misunderstand this. Are we only going to walk away from this class with the notes that we take, or is there going to be some kind of, summary at the end of the class? My fear is, what if this ISA that I have and I put him through this isn't my ISA in 4 months?
Yeah, they don't stay.
Is there something that I'm going to be able to use for the next one,
right,
and for the team after the class?
Well, and I think, Jeffrey, to your point, you taking it will help that. So just for perspective, the class used to be $800 a month for one person. And when COVID hit, we wanted to make it more accessible. So now it's $199 for 2 people within the team. So even if only you take it, it will help the team. But yes, so we give you notes, but the notes think of it almost like when you put all 18 sessions together, you really have a script book, because you get all the language patterns and dialogues in those 18 sessions and in the 18 workbooks. And then we also give you 3 trackers that you can use, that you can download and just keep for yourself. So what I would say, Jeffrey, is make sure you take a lot of great notes, but you will essentially have a script book at the end of that you can use. And then the videos, when the class is over, they're available for 60 days after the very last class. So it's a 6-month program, add 2 months of recording access. So you really have 8 months. So say that you have someone and they leave, and then you hire another person 3 months in, they'll have access to the recordings. Yeah. But overall, it's just under $1,200 for the whole 6 months. And I bring the content to you because I'm passionate about it. I'm not just saying this because I'm the teacher, but I mean, we've had people say, I used to set, I don't remember the amount, but I had someone tell me I've increased my held, not set, held appointments by 10 a month. And we were about halfway through the class. So when you think of the return on that, that's a significant return. Now it's up to you to put in the work. And I'm not just talking to you here, Jeffrey, like to everybody. The class, attending the class isn't the whole picture. You got to make sure you're practicing and implementing. But I mean, 10 extra held appointments a month, you're going to get a huge ROI, even if you miss half the classes, which please don't. I want you to get the most out of it. Does that answer it for you, Jeffrey? Yeah. Kimberly said, what scripts do you use? Do they have specific scripts? So in the class, I more teach language patterns, and let me explain the difference. A language pattern is more, how do I talk to someone? Kind of like this science. So let me give you an example. I'll give you one right now. This is a freebie and write fast because we're super over time. If someone says, I'm busy, call me later. The language pattern is 1, thank them. Thanks for letting me know. 2, ask a question. So you could say, when is better? Or when can I call you? What's a better time? And then 3, ask a question about motivation. So do you see how it's 3 steps, but you can put your own personality on it? So Joseph might say, thanks for letting me know. When is better? What has you thinking about moving? But Michelle might say, hey, I'm really glad you told me. When would be a nice time to call you back? And then, hey, in 30 seconds or less, what has you thinking of moving? They both did the pattern, it's a language pattern, but they had their own words as they did the language pattern. So a lot of people from class will say, I feel like now I know how to talk to people, but I get to be myself instead of just reading a paragraph that was written, which, by the way, they have their place as well. Day one, you kind of need a paragraph to read because you don't know what you're doing. But this class, day one, I give you a buyer sheet and a seller sheet that basically, if you just read it, you'll probably set an appointment if they're qualified. So that day one, you have something to use because you haven't had the training yet. So it's kind of like just use these sheets and I'll explain as we go. So day one, you get a buyer sheet and a seller sheet. Did I say that right? Buyer sheet, seller sheet. And then throughout the class, I teach you language patterns that will add to your understanding. And as we go, you'll think, oh, now I know why the buyer sheet has that on there. Okay, now I see why the seller sheet has this. Does that make sense? Yes, and you get them through the class. You get them through the class. So again, it's $199 a month. You can have 2 people from within the same team. It used to be $800 a month for 1 person. And when COVID hit, we changed the structure to make it more accessible. 18 sessions over 6 months, they're all recorded. So if you have a listing appointment during the time, you can catch the recording, no big deal. Cool. Any other questions? You guys have been great. There's like a lot of you on here still and we're way over. So I'm glad you guys are here. Hopefully I'll see you February 2nd. It is my favorite hour of the week. I absolutely love teaching it. It's a lot like this, except we have slides and workbooks. It's a little bit more formal class, but you get to meet other people. So a lot of people will say, I now feel like I have a network of people. Sometimes I hear people that met outside of class and had coffee. Like, it's pretty awesome to build your network with others doing lead gen.
Or they could run scripts together.
Yeah, yes. Well, class 1, I give a script sign up sheet. So class 1, you get a buyer sheet, a seller sheet, and I get a script partner sign up sheet. It's up to you to find your own script partner. I'm not managing that. That would be a logistical nightmare. You got to find someone that jives with you and you have the right schedule and stuff. But that way they're in the class with you, so you know they've had the same training. You know, when you script with someone who hasn't been trained the way you have, you could completely jack up that script and they'll say, that sounds great, you know, because they don't know. They don't know. They haven't had the training. So I provide a script partner sheet for you day one so you can get signed up. And, you know, Amy, I see you nodding your head. Maybe Leanne and Amy, who are on Zoom together, hey, you want to script practice together? And you'll actually know if you're doing it right because you're there. So that all comes through class. I see someone saying, what's the script partner details? All of that is in the official class, Mastering Inside Sales. So just go to masteringinsidesales.com. It starts February 2nd. February 2nd.
And you're still going to have a class the week of Family Feud, right? A family reunion, right?
When you sign, if you go to the registration page, you'll see the dates. Jeffrey, I don't remember, probably because I don't think family reunion hits on a Wednesday. But you'll see, we usually take a break here and there if there's an event. And I usually tell people, if you're not at the event, re-watch a recording we already did to deepen your learning. But when you go to the registration page, you'll see all the dates for the 6 months. The details, again, it's masteringinsidesales.com. Masteringinsidesales.com. You could also just go to the MAPS page, Keller Williams MAPS Group Coaching, and you'll find this class in their list. But to make it easy, we just made a landing page so that you could just find it quickly. So masteringinsidesales.com. Cool. Any other questions? All right. We are at 4:11 Eastern time. I'm going to let y'all go. Stay warm out there. And please send some warm weather to South Carolina. We're all about to die. And I will see you guys hopefully in class on February 2nd. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. You're welcome.